my beautiful fairies! This is Claire Aimée, and I'm your fairy, Clairy Godmother. And we're back with more Care Bears. Unfortunately. So my last video about redesigning the Care Bears was a pretty big hit. So I decided to do the villains too. I'm only doing the 3 major ones from the 80s cartoon, and then maybe I'll do more in the future if you want me to. Now, some of you may be wondering,
Claire, why are you putting so much effort and thought into this if you hate the Care Bears?
well, that's the point. I love the premise of Care Bears, but I hate the execution. And that's why I'm having so much fun redesigning this franchise into my own vision. Who knows? Maybe I'll pitch it to the owners of the Care Bears one day if my ego gets big enough. Alright, no more fluff. Time to get down to business. I'm going to start with No Heart, but I like to call him the unsung hero of Care Bears. Why? Because he was trying to kill them. And he was the closest who actually came to killing them, so he's my favorite. My spirit animal. Also, well, because I love cheesy 80s villains. And to be fair, for how bad the original show is, No Heart isn't that bad a villain. He's kind of entertaining sometimes. Still poorly written, but also the smartest, most responsible, and most mature character on the show. And for a moral-driven cartoon, having your villain be in the right most of the time is, well, not a good look. Definitely the only thing the original show has to being even remotely cool. But for my redesign, I'm going to go dark. Even kind of creepy. I decided to literally make him have no heart. As in, he's a decaying, soulless husk, almost like a zombie. So I gave him an exposed chest and a dark flame where his heart should be. I also made the cloak tighter to give a clearer shape of his bones. The edges of the clothes are ragged, like he crawled out of his tomb. And yeah, I'm a sucker for oversized sleeves. And long, bony fingers with rancid teal flesh rotting off the bones. And of course, I kept those majestic eyebrows. As for his place in the story, he is of course the main antagonist, but unlike the original, he's in a weakened state at the start of the series. He's washed up. A has-been. Once the cruelest and most powerful mage in all of Cara. Now reduced to living bones and dust. Long ago, the Care Bears, once a larger and more prominent force, defeated him and locked him away in a tomb of light. Now free, yet with his physical form destroyed, leaving only the rotten remains and the personification of his sheer ruthlessness to survive. Of course, he wants revenge. But he's going to be smart about it. He has the ability to drain the emotions out of people and convert it into power. He can reduce a human to a lifeless shell in a matter of moments, though they can be restored once their emotions are returned. Like in the original, he can shapeshift, but all his animalistic forms are zombie-like in appearance. Basically, he steals emotions from others to hopefully regain his former powers to reclaim Cara, which he believes is rightfully his due to his ego and his family's legacy. Family is a very strong theme in Guardians of Cara, with the series delving deep into character relationships and even warning signs of abuse. Of course, these themes will be attempted subtly to keep it understandable for kids, but still taken seriously enough to treat them with respect. I don't want to dumb anything down. Villains are a very important part of storytelling to get right. So I'm still gonna work more on No Heart. Trying to make him scary, but still relatively kid-friendly, without dumbing the character down. I had a lot of fun with the color palette. Teal, purple, and red make such a surprisingly fun combination. And with that, we have No Heart, back from the grave. Next up is Beastly, who apparently was a popular character back when the original show was airing, but I have no idea why. He was so freaking annoying to me, cute and funny only occasionally. So his design and personality are going to get a major overhaul. I first heard of this character before I watched the original. I think I was about 8 years old. I had no idea what he looked like, but he was described to me as having a motorcycle. But in the show, it was really just a bicycle. So that made me want to reinvent Beastly as the little greaser I've always wanted to see. I had no idea what creature Beastly was meant to be originally. He was just kind of a random monster. Which forced me to get creative when actually deciding to model him after at least a creature with identifiable attributes. But then I noticed his nose, and I decided, pig! That's it. So I made him a wild pig with fur and tusks and all the fixings. Instead of a pilot look, I wanted to make him a literal roadhog. So I changed his hat to a spiked bike helmet. And instead of his scarf, I gave him a leather jacket with a furry collar because I'm a sucker for fluff. And I decided to make this villainous family all share uniform colors: teal, purple, and red. I'll discuss more about my ideas for this twisted family dynamic with Shreeky. As for now, I want to talk about the Care Bear Stare. And instead of using the Care Bear Stare as a hypno ray essentially, we're changing it to an ultimate attack, a final smash. They can no longer use it to force emotions onto others. It's now purely used for combat. And it can only be activated when the bears are in perfect harmony with each other. So they can't use it whenever they want. But they also have a new ability, the Care Bear Hug. Sounds corny, but hear me out. When working together, the bears can emit a healing beam that, while it doesn't change your emotions, can purify someone of curses or corruption. It can't make an angry person happy, but it can help remove dark energy that's driving someone mad. But if someone is already cruel or evil, it doesn't work. That way, it's not always guaranteed to work. It's not overpowered, it's balanced. And done, Beastly is ready to go. Now doesn't he look so much more monstrous, like an actual beast? He looks like he could rip you to shreds and have your guts as dessert. I love it. Also, I'm not one for implementing voice headcanons, especially this early into production, but Well, you know, if Beastly did have a voice for this potential reboot, well, I'd want it to be Tonkatsu Sinclair.
Perfectly fair. I'd almost recommend it, in fact. If you think my normal voice sounds annoying, you should hear me when I'm having an orgasm. You ever heard a donkey getting zapped with a cattle prod? It sounds like that, but like, wetter.
Next up is Shreeky, who might actually be my least favorite character in the entire original show. And that is saying a lot. There is practically nothing I like about this character. She's not funny, she's not charming, she's not useful, and she basically contributes nothing to the stories. But my philosophy for rebooting characters is, the worse a character was in the original, the more effort you put into making them good. So I gave Shreeky a total overhaul. She's still a nasty little brat, but she's also a character with complexities. She's often helping her Uncle No Heart with his schemes, and dreams of being the world's greatest witch. She's a petulant, ill-mannered girl with a quick temper and a loud, ungraceful nature. She doesn't care at all for the feelings of others and takes her anger out on anyone that isn't her. So she's basically your average 12-year-old. She's desperate to impress her Uncle No Heart, which is contrasted with the partner she's often stuck with, Beastly, who of course regularly mocks all of them. Shreeky is a martyr. She is willing to do anything to please her uncle, no matter how low or how dark. Shreeky was born on Earth to Kimberly and Nicholas Cherrywood. Ah yeah, baby. We got Care Bears movie lore, and we're putting it into Guardians of Cara. And yes, this does mean that I'm rewriting Nicholas into No Heart's brother. Don't worry, it'll all make sense, I promise. Also, Shreeky is a horrible name, so I'm changing it. Shreeky is now just the unflattering nickname her uncle gives her. Her real name is Teresa Ann Cherrywood. That's because both of her voice actresses had the same name. Terry Ann Hawks and Tracy Ann Moore. Terry and Tracy both being diminutives of Teresa. Teresa grew up and worked in her family-run orphanage. There, she would often bully the orphans and make trouble for her parents, due to feeling unnoticed and even unloved in a giant building full of kids. She even began to believe her parents cared more for the orphans than her. But when she found her father's old spellbook from Cara, she discovered that she was related to the greatest wizard in the world. So she used its magic to travel to Cara and release her magical uncle from his tomb. Okay, so I absolutely had to keep the teal and purple ponytail. But her wardrobe's now more akin to that of a punkish Little Red Riding Hood. And the hoodie strings are meant to look like a broken heart. And I gave her mismatched shoes to make her look more chaotic and immature. She had a magic mirror in the show, so I made it her primary weapon. So the relationship between Shreeky and No Heart is meant to be a bit unnerving. He's usually gentle with her, even nice. But his crueler side shows when she starts acting up or fails. He can also be very manipulative, coaxing her into doing what he wants by preying on her emotionally and using her own fears and dreams against her. I'm still working on it, but I hope to make their family dynamic twisted yet interesting. And with that, Shreeky is complete. And now I can move on with my life. And Guardians of Cara now has some proper baddies. I think I'll give this reboot concept a break for now, so I can work more on the overall plot and characterization. But now that I've started, I ain't stopping. Plus, I have more stories and even more videos to work on. Let me know what you think of Guardians of Cara. Anyway, this has been Claire Aimée, and I'll see you beautiful fairies another night.